There was no day off for thousands of workers in Rome, New York on July 4th, 1817. Instead, they celebrated Independence Day by rolling up their sleeves, picking up shovels, and swinging pickaxes. With only manpower and horsepower, they began digging their way across the state to build the longest canal yet to exist in America or Europe. Finally, in October 1825, the Erie Canal was complete, changing the landscape of New York State forever. In 1800, the western frontier of the United States was at the Appalachian Mountains. But settlers and traders wanted to push farther west into the fertile farmlands of the Northwest Territory, present-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And New York City was in fierce competition with other East Coast ports to control the trade in crops, furs, and other resources from the west. To get to the Northwest Territory in the early 1800s, settlers and traders had to travel along dirt roads. The journey could take weeks. And in winter, rain and snow turned the trails into rivers of mud. A new and faster transportation route was needed. Ships had always been able to travel the Hudson River between New York City and Albany in upstate New York. But what if Albany could be linked to Lake Erie and to the resources of the West with a canal? A canal is a man-made waterway used to connect bodies of water. In 1817, New York Governor DeWitt Clinton appeared before the state legislature. His goal was to persuade lawmakers to grant $7 million for the construction of a canal. It would be 363 miles long, 40 feet wide, and 4 feet deep. And it would link the Hudson River in the east to Lake Erie in the west. Some people made fun of the governor's project, calling it Clinton's Ditch. They didn't think such a long canal could ever be built, but they were wrong. Workers on the Erie Canal were local laborers and immigrants from Ireland. They were paid $8 to $12 a month, or 50 cents a day. They didn't have any special training and often had to learn on the job, under difficult conditions. They had to blast through solid rock, dig through swamps infested with mosquitoes and snakes, and clear trees and stumps from the canal's path. Many bridges had to be built over the canal so that existing roads would remain connected. Most importantly, the water in a canal has to be level so boats can navigate it. But New York State is not flat. Lake Erie is more than 500 feet higher in elevation than the Hudson River. Engineers in Europe had solved this problem by building locks to raise and lower boats from one water level to another. So that's what workers on the Erie Canal project did. When a boat reaches a lock, a section of the canal is closed off with gates or doors so that water can be removed or added through tunnels called sluices. When the water level matches up, the boat can continue to travel on. The Erie Canal officially opened in October 1825 when Governor Clinton and other state officials boarded a boat called the Seneca Chief in Buffalo. They traveled for 10 days on the canal, finally arriving in Albany on the Hudson River. Towns along the canal held parties and parades, and people came out to cheer. In New York City, there was a huge celebration called the Wedding of the Waters, where Governor Clinton poured a barrel of water from Lake Erie into the Atlantic Ocean to show that the two major bodies of water were now linked. The Erie Canal changed the lives of people in New York almost instantly. People and goods could move across the state faster and cheaper. In the first year it was open, 2,000 boats, 9,000 horses, and 8,000 men traveled along the canal, transporting goods from place to place. Farmers and ranchers in the Northwest Territory sent wheat, beef, and lumber to eastern markets. In return, they received manufactured goods such as tools, furniture, and clothing. New York City became the busiest port in the United States, as well as the nation's commercial and financial center. And its population boomed, rising from about 123,000 in 1820 to about 515,000 in 1850. Towns also sprung up along the canal as trade increased and industry grew. Just look at New York State today to see the Erie Canal's influence. Every major city except for two falls along the trade route from New York City to Albany, through Schenectady, Utica, and Syracuse to Rochester and Buffalo. Nearly 80% of upstate New York's population lives within 25 miles of the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal changed the course of American history as well. It was the first major transportation system to open up the western frontier to settlers. The Transcontinental Railroad and the interstate highway system came later. Thoughts and ideas also traveled more quickly throughout the country. Supporters of women's rights and abolitionists who wanted to end slavery set up offices along the Erie Canal so their ideas would be heard by many and then spread far and wide. With the invention of large cargo ships, trucks, and airplanes, the Erie Canal is no longer used as a major trade route, but it is still a popular recreational spot for boaters and vacationers. The Erie Canal helped make America what it is today, and its importance is preserved in history, folklore, and song.
I don't have to call when I want myself. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Eat rocks from a stall like a good old gal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. No bridge, everybody down. No bridge, you got the finest deal in town.